Hi Five, it's Monday the 27th of April and we're going to do some new learning in maths this week. So well done to those of you who had a really good go at the maths last week. We're going to move up a level this week and see if we can make it a little bit more challenging. But again, we're going to do it every single day this week so we can have lots of practice, and there will be some challenge in there for those of you who like to do the more trickier things as well. So let's start with lesson 1 of our new learning this week, which is to multiply mixed numbers by integers. So last week we multiplied fractions by integers. We had a really good practice at that, and this week we're going to add in another whole number as well. So if you've seen your maths task for this week, you would have seen what maybe a mixed number times an integer may look like, and you may think, oh, that looks really tricky. But we're going to have lots and lots of time together today to practice, and as always, once you feel like you've got it, you can stop the video and do your questions. If at any point you want to rewind or pause it, then you can do that. And if you want to repeat the lesson and maybe hear my explanation again, you've got that option as well. Okay, so we're going to go through 2 different ways we can do this method today. We can go through the method of repeated addition, which is the first way that I'm going to show you how to do this learning objective today, or you could use partitioning, which is the second method I'm going to show you a little bit later. So when I ask you to do your 8 questions, which are on your daily home learning task, you can choose either method to solve your answers. You can use method 1, or you can use method 2, or if you wanted to practice both, you could do 4 questions using method 1 and you could answer the other 4 questions using method 2. It's completely up to you, whichever method you feel helps you and your understanding the best. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first example on the attachment that I sent home with your home learning today was 2 3/4 multiplied by 4. So 2 3/4 is your mixed number. It's a mixture of a whole integer, whole amount, and a fraction, and 4 is your integer. So this was the first example I gave on the attachment that was sent home with you today, and we are going to look at this question first. So I have my Croisinaire rods here, and I have showed 2 3/4 1, 2, 3, 4 times, because we want 4 lots of 2 3/4. So the purple blocks are representing my whole amounts, 1, 2, and my white blocks are representing quarters. So as you can see here, I have 4 white blocks which make one whole, but I only want 3/4. So I'm going to take 1 away. So that was just to show you that the white blocks equal 3/4. So I have 2 3/4 4 times. So method 1 is called repeated addition. So I'm just going to write that here. Now repeated addition means that you are adding your amount the number of times that you have been asked to multiply it. So rather than use multiplication, our first method, we're going to use repeated addition, which means we are going to add 2 3/4 4 times. Okay, so we are firstly going to look at our whole numbers. We have 2, add 2, add 2, add 2, which is 8. So I'm going to write 8 here. And then we're going to add up our fractions. So we have 3/4, add 3/4, add 3/4, add 3/4. Now, those of you who can remember us doing this in school, and we have done a little bit of this since we have been learning from home as well, is that our denominator always stays the same. So we are still dealing with quarters, and so we can write quarters or 4 as our denominator. So we are adding our numerators. Show this, I've done a picture here underneath of 4 circles split into quarters, and if you wanted to draw it out, it's a really good way of seeing clearly what 3/4 add 3/4 add 3/4 add 3/4 is. So if I, oh, the lid fell off. If I draw 3/4 4 times, if I do this really quickly, you can then see I have 3/4 4 times, and then you can count the quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have an answer of 8 and 12 quarters. Now I need you to remember this fact today because it's really important, and if you can remember this, it will help with the rest of our learning this week. We cannot have an answer where a whole number is with an improper fraction. So our mixed numbers today, all of our answers are going to be mixed numbers unless it comes to a whole number. And our fraction always has to be less than 1. Our numerator always has to be smaller than our denominator. So here we have a fraction that is more than 1. It's an improper fraction. So we have to convert this. Okay, so if we look over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have 3, 6, 9, 12 quarters. But we cannot have this as our answer. So we need to convert 12 quarters. So if I was to take this quarter and move it up here, that's 1 whole. So I'm going to take this away. If I was to take this quarter and move it here, that is another whole amount, 4 quarters. Okay, and if I was to take this one here and move it here, that's another whole. So my answer isn't going to be 8 and 12 quarters. 12 quarters is actually 3 whole, because 12 divided by 4 is 3. So this is actually 8 and 3, which is 11. So 2 3/4 times 4 is 11, and I've done that using repeated addition. Okay, so that was like a way of me showing you how to do it. The next one I'd like you to have a go at with me. So the next question we're going to do is 1 2/5 multiplied by 3. So I'm just going to pause for a second and wipe the board, and then we're going to have a go at this question. Okay, second question, which you're going to have a go at doing with me. So our question is 1 2/5 multiplied by 3. And we're going to use our first method, which is repeated addition, to answer this question. So I'm trying to show you here 1 2/5. So this is my 1 whole, and these white blocks represent fifths. So as you can see, 5/5 make up 1 whole, and I need 2/5. So I'm going to just take these 3 away, and I'm going to take this away to show 1 whole and 2/5. Notice my colour of block has changed. That's because these represent fifths. 5/5 make a whole. They're slightly longer than the purple blocks I used just now, which represent 4 of these, whereas the yellow ones represent 1 more, so they're slightly bigger. So I've got 1 whole and 2/5 3 times because I'm multiplying by 3, and I'm going to add them together to try and solve this. Okay, so I'm going to add up my whole numbers to begin with. So I've got 1 add 1 is 3, and then I'm going to add up my fractions. I have 2/5 add 2/5 add 2/5. So remember, we've been doing this all of last week. Our denominator stays the same. We add the numerators, 2, 4, 6, and we get the answer 3 6/5. Now, please remember that one fact that I really want you to try and keep in your brains. Write it down, note it down if it will help. We cannot have a mixed number that consists of a whole number and an improper fraction. This fraction here is more than 1. If I move my board forward, just slightly, and colour in 2/5 3 times, I have 1 2, 1 2, 1 2. Keep flicking that lid off my pen. So as you can see, I have 6/5. But if I was to move these two over to here, I've still got the same number of fifths. I've just shaded in a different part of my shape. And if I take this one here and colour in this part here, it's a little bit more clearer to see that this is 1 whole and I have 1/5 remaining. So this equals 1 whole and 1/5. We've practiced this quite a lot, so I hope that you're following me. So really we have 3 whole, 1 whole and 1/5, which all together equals 4 whole and 1/5. and we can use the blocks to test this and check that we're right. If I was to take these 2 fifths and move them here, and I was to take this fifth and move it here, we have the equivalent of 1 whole. So I'm going to take these away, and then that might help us see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 wholes and 1 fifth. Okay, so the next question we're going to do is 2 and 1/6 multiplied by 3. So again, I'm going to pause the video while I wipe the whiteboard clean. I want you to write that one down, see if you can have a go at it using repeated addition. See if you can maybe make a start before the video starts. Right, so let's see if we can answer this question almost independently now, just using me as a bit of a guide to check. Our next question is 2 and 1/6 times by 3. So what I'd like you to start doing is looking at the whole numbers and doing a rough calculation in your head. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, and 1/6 times 3 is 3/6. So I want you to start by having a rough idea of what the answer may be in your head, and that will help you check your answer as well. So I have my green blocks this time, and I'm showing you that these are equivalent to 6/6, which make a whole. So I'm using my green blocks, and I have 2 whole and 1/6. Okay, so we're going to add up our whole numbers first. 2 add 2 add 2 is 6. 1/6 add 1/6 add 1/6 is 3/6. And for those of you who wanted to take your answer and simplify it, you may have noticed that 3/6, if I take these 3 and put them here, they are equivalent to half. So you could say 6 and 3/6, which would be correct, or you could say it's worth 6 1/2. So that one was a little bit more simple, I hope. There were 2 other questions on your home learning attachment, which were optional. They were just there to have as a bit of a practice. The other 2 questions were 1 and 3/7 times 2, and 3 and 1/3 multiplied by 4. So they were on the attachment that I sent home with you on Friday, and it's up to you if you feel that you would benefit from practicing those 2. I can give you the answers to those at the end, or you can now listen to the next explanation, which is the second method of how to multiply mixed numbers by integers. Now if you feel like you understand the repeated addition method, see if you can have a go at answering the questions on your home learning. And as always, the answers are on the WordPress website. Or if you would like to see what the second method is, to see if that is a method that you prefer using, then continue watching. So method 2 is partitioning the mixed number before multiplying to get your answer. Now that sounds really tricky, but actually it's really similar to method 1, which we just did, which was repeating addition. So let me show you how I would use this method to solve this question here. This question is 2 and 4/9 multiplied by 2, so we're doubling. So this time I have my blue rods to show that 1 whole is worth 9/9. So I've got 4/9 here and 4/9 here. So let's just remove these. Oh, almost dropped them all over the floor. So I have 2 whole and 4/9, and 2 whole and 4/9, and I'm multiplying by 2. So when I say partition the mixed number, I am separating the whole number away from the fraction. Okay, so we're going to start by multiplying the whole numbers together, which is these 2. And then we are going to multiply the fraction by the integer, and then we're going to add them up. So first of all, I'm going to take away my fractions, put them down here for now. So the first thing I'm going to do is 2 times 2. I'm going to multiply my whole numbers together, which is 4. I'm now going to multiply, so I've done this, I'm now going to multiply my fraction by 2. So I have 4/9 2 times. That gives me 8/9. And then you add up your two answers. And what is 4 and 8/9? 4 and 8/9. Okay, so that is what I mean by partitioning. We are timesing our whole numbers together, then we are timesing the fraction by the integer, and then we're adding up our results. Let me show you one more example before you choose which method suits you the best today. Okay, our final example today is 4 multiplied by 3 and 3/5. Now this time I've inverted my numbers so my integer comes first, but it's still the same method. I'm just showing you that sometimes it can be the integer before the mixed number. It's the same process. So here I've got 3 and 3/5 4 times. So I have 3 and 3/5 here. I have 3 whole and 3/5 here, 3 whole and 3/5 here, and 3 whole and 3/5 here. So we are going to partition our mixed number. So we are going to split the whole number away from our fraction. We're going to start by multiplying our whole numbers together. 4 times 3 equals 12. And then we are going to multiply our fraction by our integer. So we have 4 times 3/5. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12 fifths. Okay, so our answer, if we add them up, would be 12 and 12 fifths. Now, what was that really important rule I asked you to remember right at the beginning of today's lesson? That's right, it was we can't have an improper fraction in our mixed number. We need to convert this. Okay, so we've got 12 divided by 5, which is 2 whole and 2/5. Sorry, can't see that very well. I'll move the board up a little bit. So that means we have 12 and 2, which is 14, and our 2/5 remaining. So our answer is 14 and 2/5. To double check that, we can move these 2/5 to here to make 5/5, which is 1 whole. So if I convert these for one of my whole amounts, and we've got another 3, 4, 5 here. So if I was to convert those 5/5 for 1 whole, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 2/5. And that's one way we can check. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is have a go at the 8 questions that I sent home, doing the best you can with method 1 or method 2 or both. And of course, don't forget, you can rewind the video, you can pause it, you could pause it on this page, for example, to show you an example of how to go through the process. And as always, I'm on the other end of the email if you need me. Good luck, guys. Bye.